Hey guys, we're back with a brand new podcast here, and we're with Herman, who is a Spinsight expert. Now, Spinsight have launched a fantastic new product to table tennis, and it is phenomenal. And Herman, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So with Spinsight, what I find absolutely extraordinary is how it's able to measure the spin and speed so easily in live time. Yep. And I know that it's been a thing for a long time in table tennis. It'd be so cool to know what the spin is on the ball, what the speed is. I know you guys have developed this through your phone. Yes. Anyone can use it on their phone.
Yeah, this was a very big step. In the beginning, it was developed for to improve rubbers, table tennis rubbers. It was a project of ESN. Mm-hmm. But when we tested the rubbers and with the top players and coaches, and they saw that we can measure spin and speed live, then they said, we absolutely need this also in our practice.
Yeah. It's really interesting, yeah. I think, it makes sense. Like a lot of other sports have it. So like there's a similar thing in tennis, like where you can always see the speed of someone's serve, and it's something that people relate to, like, wow, that was a really fast serve. And yeah, we've not really had it in table tennis. So I think it's still quite new in the sense of our sport, but really, really cool.
Yeah, and of course, we've done a lot of videos here with Annette Kaufman, who's fantastic, and has been working closely with you guys. And yeah, from a training point of view, it's great. It can show you your spin over a long period of time. And yeah, just talk to us a bit more about Spinsight, how you found it helps develop, because you're working with many pro players. Yeah. It wasn't released until now. Yeah. Before, it was only released to professional players. Yes. And now it's to everyone.
Yes. So this was a big step, as you mentioned, that we can now have the measurement on the phone. In the beginning, it was a big system, very precise, very high technical, but only usable for really the best professional players, maybe for federations, for universities. And now finally, after already 8 years development, we got the measurement on the phone, and now it's easily accessible for everyone.
Yeah. When you guys had that moment where it started working on the phone, you're like, wow, this is amazing. It must have been cool, because you were telling me before it was a big system. Yes. To carry it to clubs, and it's very complex. Now anyone with a phone can just literally download the app and use Spinsight.
Yeah, we didn't expect that. Without, okay, maybe we can have some speed measurement on the phone or something, but now it's really measuring really precisely, especially the spin, what is probably the most important parameter in table tennis.
I know you've measured many pro players out there of the spin. Who then have you found has the most spin? And you're like, whoa, that's crazy.
So what we have seen is a very strong correlation between the level of the players and the spin. You can really see that the better the player gets, the more spin they can also produce, the better the technique is, the more power they can use for their strokes. And there are some exclusions, of course. There are some
anomalies, yeah.
Some very strong players who have not so high level, but they have a good arm speed, but they cannot hit the table more than twice on the table, maybe. And there are some exceptions also. The professional players who play defense maybe have, compared to the other professionals, less power or spin in their attack. But normally, even for the professional players, we see the differences even there in the world ranking, that the better players can even produce more spin for their strokes.
That's really interesting, because you wouldn't imagine, like, you can imagine it from, like, let's say a league player or a regional player to a pro player. Yeah, they're getting more spin, but even in, like you said, like even in world ranking, you can see like a high world ranking gets more spin, which is, I find really interesting. Like,
yeah. And of course, if you're here, you can now measure spin and speed. The first thing you want to do is to break the record and do more and more. But that's not all what it's about. We focus mainly on table tennis training, and of course, one thing is to have more power, more spin and speed. If you have a higher quality stroke, of course, it's more difficult to receive it. But more important is to do variations. So the pro players who use the app, they mainly do variations for their serve, but also in-game strokes. Like Annette is doing changes of her rhythm, or Troels is the best example for variations, how effective this can be in professional table tennis.
That's a good point, because let's say you're using Spinsight and maybe doing a forehand topspin. You can do one forehand topspin with lots of spin and try and do the same technique with lesser spin, and that variation makes it hard for your opponent.
Yes.
And Spinsight is giving you the actual data, so
live, like right in front of you.
Yeah, because I think sometimes in table tennis it's very easy to like, oh, am I doing a good shot there or am I not? And it's interesting because Chairman, he always says, oh, my forehand is not that fast. But actually, when you check it on Spinsight, it's still around 50. Like, it wasn't that much difference to Annette. But in his mind, he's like, oh, it's just terrible. And
it can give you a confidence.
Boost
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. especially like my serve, I got 62 or something.
68, I think.
And some pros have this not far from that. So I'm like, this is great. But maybe it's not as consistent as the pros. So I need to use more serve practice and try and get the average serve at that amount.
And this is what is making the difference now. Before, you go to practice, and if you're lucky and have a good coach, he says, okay, let's improve the speed of your
get the
stroke.
touch better or
Get
whatever.
the touch better. Okay, now we want to improve the spin of your topspin. And then you go and you say, okay, do more wrist. Now it's better. Okay, but how much better?
Yeah, how much better? Yeah. Is it
really
is it
better?
that much better? Or is it the same? Or is it less?
Yes.
This is the biggest thing I think in table tennis. Like we've not been able up to this point to really like put a metric on it. Where we've talked about like even something as simple as running is so far ahead. You wear a running watch, you know your exact route, GPS, how far you ran, how fast you ran this kilometer in, and like table tennis, you don't have that breakdown. So it's like now with this, it gives you a much better understanding, I think.
It's gamifying it as well.
Yeah, it makes it enjoyable.
Yeah, during COVID, we all got into running. You got into running as well, Tom. And the app we was using, Runkeeper. And what happened? You have this in Spinsight as well, which is really cool. Where on Runkeeper, I don't know, this week in 5K, I got 20 minutes and 20 seconds. And it shows you a leaderboard with like all your friends.
Yeah.
And I believe in Spinsight has something like this, right? So it shows where you are in position to, let's say, where the pros are and stuff. Which is amazing because then when you're serve practicing and stuff, you can start going, oh, okay, I'm now really close to a pro level, or I'm an advanced level, or whatever. Is this correct? Do you have this?
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned very many very important things now. So one is to really understand better what you're doing, to for the communication with the coach and the players, how to improve. The other thing is what you mentioned is that you can track your progress, to see your strengths and weaknesses, that you can do a skill test and see what is your status, your current status now, and then you do it 1 week later or months later and you see your development. You can compare with others, and that's leading to the leaderboards also.
That's really cool.
At the moment, I use mostly in my practice with the kids the games. So we have some gamification of the serve training, because many say serve training makes no sense.
Yeah, and it can be boring.
Spinsight, because you don't. It's boring. Yes.
Yeah, it can be boring for sure. Like,
and when you do use Spinsight, you're kind of like, how was I doing serve practice before without Spinsight? You know, now it's kind of like much better. I can see the spin I'm getting, and I think one key thing for me with serve practice is when you're trying to do deception, and obviously good players with good serves have very good deception, right? Like Per Garel with his kicker serve and backspin serve, right?
Yeah.
It would be very interesting to watch his on Spinsight because it looks the exact same, yet heavy topspin or heavy backspin, and obviously on Spinsight it shows you the direction of the spin that you're getting.
That's what I found really cool.
Because then you can then work on your serves, work on the same motion, and you can see the arrow, if it's going down or up, okay, that is getting topspin, even though you're not 100% sure without the Spinsight.
So it's an assisting tool. So you still need to have a coach, or you know yourself how to do the movement to have it similar. But then you have to prove somehow or find out if the quality was right. That's what you're just saying, that you can see if you had the right touch or not. And if you understand this, if you can measure this, then you can improve this much faster and develop much easier.
I think a real misconception in table tennis, and I fall into this trap heavily, and I think a lot of amateur players do, is where they try to use more tension and tensing up to try and get more spin and quality. But when you use Spinsight, you actually go, oh, actually, when I was relaxed there, I'm actually getting more spin. And
well, that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Because before you were like, right, I need to do this to get more power, and you try something, and maybe it feels better, maybe it doesn't. But now you're actually seeing, is it better or not? So it's like, okay, now I really do know what works. Okay, I was more relaxed on that backhand, I got more spin, so therefore I need to be more relaxed and not being more tense. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Table tennis is so much about try and error, and now you can, even without coach, do it yourself. You try out and you directly see live the result of your strokes.
Yeah, it's really good.
And Herman, I want to ask, if for players now who want to get Spinsight on their phone, at home, clubs, wherever they are, coaches also want to get Spinsight, how does it work? What do we have to do? We have to download the app, Spinsight?
Yes.
And then what's the process from there?
Yes, we have the app now in the App Store. You can finally download it.
Woo!
Exciting.
That's very good, very convenient. And what else you need if you want to measure the spin? You need the Spinsight balls, so the balls with the dots on them.
Here we are.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Because with the dots, if you spin it, you will directly see it. That you can see the spin, and you can not only see it, you can also measure it.
And these are very good quality balls as well.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And Okay, so how do I buy those balls? Do I buy it within the app, Spinsight, or?
You can go via the website, or you can do it directly in the app.
Yeah.
So you need to download the app. You need some balls, and you need to get your measuring phone in the right position. It's working on the iPhone. So either your phone or some other iPhone from some teammates in your clubs, for example. We have the net post adapters made for this Spinsight measurement.
Yeah.
And it gets your phone very easy in the right position. It's just like 10 seconds, you put it on the net, and then you go.
This is what I like, because I did try a version a few months ago and had a tripod, and it took quite a while to calibrate it and stuff because I couldn't get it in the right position. Whereas with this, it clips on the net, you bring it out, and then it goes directly where it needs to be.
Actually, everything what you need, you see here on the table. The phone you have with you anyway, and then you need a net post adapter. It's very small and light, and you need some balls, and you can start. If you play with someone else, he has another phone, then you can use this second phone to display the data.
Yeah, and the second phone doesn't need to be an iPhone. It could be any phone or a tablet, right? So it makes it even easier.
If you are on your own, you don't have another phone, what can you do? Is there anything else?
Yeah, even better if you have a tablet, then you can see the results better, bigger. But if you have a second phone, you can also use second phone.
Yeah.
You have the measurement also on the measuring device, but this is not so convenient. You have to go there. You can turn on the sound if you're alone, that you can hear the spin and the speed.
Cool. I didn't know that. That's
you can have headphones in and it will tell you.
Yes.
I love that. Okay, that's very
But it's
pretty
better
cool.
if you want to use the full potential and all the different training features that we have built in, then you need the second device to display the data.
But like we've used it often with an iPad, or it doesn't have to be an iPad, any tablet, and it's quite convenient because obviously it's bigger than a phone, and you get the display, and it's quite nice, like having that, like you can easily see it, you know. And to be honest, a lot of people have like an iPad or a tablet nowadays, in at least one at home in the family, you know.
Yeah, I think also with Spinsight, because there's like, especially the skill tests and stuff, one of the ones I did with a net was we had to do 15 in a row, and you get the average spin, right?
score.
And it really makes you focus on each serve to get good quality, because otherwise your average is going to be low, and then you're not improving it. So it really makes you think differently in the serve practice, rather than just serving for whatever. This is now putting in more of a pressured environment, which is more match realistic. So when you play a match, it's 10-10 in the fifth, you've got a better chance of serving well
properly. Yeah,
you've done a lot of good practice under pressure.
Yeah, especially if you get used to this, then it's difficult to get back to imagine how you could do surface practice without the measurement. You didn't know if the serve was good or not so good. Often, after a lot of experience, the experienced coaches and trainers, you have a good feeling for the quality of the stroke.
Yeah.
But if it goes to the details, you have seen this with Annette, it's still difficult to judge. If it's very low, maybe, but the quality of the spin and speed was maybe not good enough. To have everything focused in mind, it's difficult to manage everything at once.
Yeah. There's a term as well, spin effect, within the app, right? Could you explain a bit about how that works?
So we have spin, we have speed. And the spin effect describes the balance between the spin and speed. So if you put your power more into the spin or more into the speed, and this has a big effect also on the stroke.
For your opponent, basically, it's how much it affects your opponent.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's kind of like if someone plays a top forehand topspin off a push with a lot of spin, but it's fast, it might still not have as much spin effect as a very slow but thin open up, which comes over slower. But actually, when you hit it, it's sometimes much harder to control this type of shot, right?
Yeah.
When there's speed, it's kind of it flies back easier somehow.
Yes. Or maybe if you imagine the ball has just backspin, no speed at all, then it will touch the rubber and will just fall down
straight down
with so much spin. And if you have the same spin but there's a lot of speed, then there's another force putting the ball back, and it will not go down so much, it goes
out a bit as well,
down a little bit, and then it doesn't feel so much spin.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, with the plastic ball, the ball loses more spin on the table than before with the celluloid ball, and also this you can test easily. There's some stopping table or more slippery table. You just take a ball and throw it straight as a serve, and then you will see how much spin the ball gets after the bounce.
Yeah, we tried this earlier. It was actually really interesting.
Okay.
So you directly know if you're on a slippery table or on a stopping table, and then you can adjust your tactics.
But I think that's something like the average league player doesn't really realize the amount of difference in the tables, like between like a fast, for example, a T-bar table, which is quite fast, it skids through, or another brand which may be stopping more. So it can be quite a big variation.
So if you mentioned there about changing tactics. So let's say someone's playing on a slower stop table. What are the tactics? How should the person try to play?
Yeah, it depends a little bit on your playing style, but if you're playing on a stopping table, that means for backspin serve, for example, a lot of much more spin will get lost after the bounces, but the ball will stay shorter. So maybe you don't need to focus on making too much spin; it will be away anyway. But you can focus on playing the ball short. On the other hand, if you have a slippery table, and even if it's half long, if you put a lot of spin, then the spin stays in the ball, and it will be more difficult to attack the ball.
I see what you mean. Yeah, it's interesting. There's so much variations to table tennis now, isn't there?
It's very complex, but now you can have a chance at least to understand what is really happening.
Absolutely. And which players again? So I know you've done some work with Hugo Calderano. So obviously he's number 3 in the world, I think, in a minute, or 4 in the world. Are his stats through the roof?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so
they are.
You see how powerful his play is, and he's also focusing on power in his game, spin and speed. So he has both. He has one of the highest values that we have measured. I think there's a video also on YouTube where he is doing 170 rotations per second. This is really, really high.
170 what, spin?
Spin.
Yeah, rotations per second.
On the backhand?
Yeah, and for his fast strokes, I think we have measured the fastest stroke also from him. So far with Spinsight, it was like nearly 150 kilometers per hour when the ball was touching the racket. So the ball keeps the spin, more or less, when it's flying through the air. But because of the air friction, it loses a lot of speed. So in the moment when the ball hits the racket, it has the highest speed. But then until it reaches the other side, it can lose like 30% of his speed.
Wow.
It's great. It's such a short distance. Yes. You wouldn't think.
But I guess because the ball's so light, it has quite an effect of the air resistance.
So that's also one part. Of course, we focus mainly on table tennis training, on improving the player with Spinsight. But you can also use this to understand table tennis physics, how the ball is jumping on the table, how the ball is losing spin and speed through the flight. And also, if you focus on your equipment, if you want to understand the differences between short pimples, long pimples, anti-spin rubbers, because now before many said, oh, there's these rubbers, they are so unpredictable. There's no unpredictable rubber.
You just have to know what.
You have to know.
That's actually a really good point.
Because a lot of league players would love this, right? There's many players in like the league amateur level. Oh, I play great. I'm playing normal players. I'm great. And then I play someone with pimples and I'm lost, you know? Yeah. That's a really common thing we find in table tennis.
Actually, that's a great training tool. If you're struggling against pimple players, set Spinsight up, play against someone with pimples and just see what's coming back.
What's happening.
Yeah. It's actually float or...
Yeah, many think if you block with a short pimple, there's backspin because you play in the net. But it's not backspin, mostly. It's just less topspin. So you don't need to push. You can attack, just you open a little bit more, play a little bit more.
Add a bit more roll,
And then if you know how much the difference is, then you know how much to adjust.
Yeah. Really interesting. Chairman would find that useful.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe there's an interesting fact also to understand. There's many things also professional players misjudge. Most things, as I said, they know right. They also directly feel difference on the tables, if they're slippery table or stopping table, and we really can measure this and show that it's a very big difference. But there's other situations also there are more that are more difficult to judge. For example, what do you think? How big is the difference between a small hole and a big hole? It's also mainly for professional players. They often play in very big stadiums.
Yeah.
How much does this affect? How much is the difference? What do you think?
Okay, this is...
for me, I feel like it can be a big difference.
But what is the difference?
Yeah,
it's difficult to put a number on it.
Yeah, for me, it does feel, when you're in a smaller hall, it does feel
it's faster. Yeah,
you think it is, but is it? I don't know. So I don't know if you have the data on that, because that's very... Because in my head, I'm like, what would be different, even if a small hall or a big hall? What's different?
Yeah, but everyone who tried this out, he will say, okay, big hall is slower. And small hole is faster.
Is there any difference at all?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I wonder what that is causing that misconception.
It's weird, because if you're in a shed, for example, a very small room, and you've got a table in there, it feels rapid.
Yes, it is an illusion a little bit. It's mostly about the sound, because the sound is less in a bigger hall, and
it feels like you
don't have the feedback. Also, it's a little bit the view. If you have a big, like this long view, it feels also slower. Maybe if you play in a really big center court and you tend to go more far away from the table, then of course, then it's really slow. Then you need really more power. But if you play the same distance with the same stroke, there's no difference in spin and speed. We could prove this easy in our table tennis lab. It's a small hall, but we have like this black curtain like here as a background for video shoots and photo shoots. And surprisingly, it also takes away all the sound. And if you play there, you feel like in a big hall. And then when we want to test the rubbers and do some experiments, we take away the curtain and directly you have more spin, more speed. But of course the ball, he doesn't know if the curtain is on or...
This is it. The ball doesn't know if you're in a big room or
and
not.
even if he would know why he should fly differently. So both flies absolutely the same. If you're on the same height, if you go on the high mountain, then you can feel different
altitude,
But just from the size of the hole, there's a difference. And there's even really top players who choose their equipment depending on the hole size.
Yeah.
You can do this if you feel better. Okay, now I have a faster racket or something that it sounds is bigger, then you feel more comfortable. But if you know the difference is not in the performance, then you can make a conscious decision.
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. What other? Do you have any other interesting facts and data you found with Spinsight?
Yes, so some players complain that the rubbers get old too quick or something like this. And what we also saw that if you clean the rubber well, like many amateur players are doing, but the professionals sometimes forget to do, then you have the effect, if you have a really clean rubber, it really helps to increase the performance. If you don't clean it at all, after some time there will be more and more dust. And this has a big effect that the ball, what you maybe said before, if you touch it too thin against a very heavy topspin, that the ball will slip through and fall down. So to keep the grip, you have also to keep the rubber clean.
Yeah, because the plastic balls can give off quite a lot of dust to the rubber.
Yes. This was in the beginning a problem of many professional players. The balls were very new and they took all the dust. And many players had the problem that the ball were falling down more often.
Interesting.
After they start to clean it between the balls, you have seen this, maybe they take this into the t-shirt, then the problem was gone.
Cool. Wow.
It's interesting though, how big of a difference it can make. Like just something as simple as that, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So, would you say then Hugo has had the most quality of spin you've ever measured?
Probably in game, yes, because it's also always a difference if you go just to do a challenge and you run and then you hit the ball with all your power.
In a match you can't do it like that.
That's who can really do a really stroke like this. 170 was like a match stroke.
Oh, so you
can use a match.
Yeah. So you're using it in a match sometimes as well, in open play, to get the readings of everything.
Yes.
Fascinating. Yeah.
So the average of like professional male players is 150. And 170 is really
the top.
Even for the best players, a really high value.
It's really cool, all these stats. I mean, okay, so obviously you've done a lot of measurements against many different types of players. What are the stats difference then between, let's say, an amateur table tennis player and a professional table tennis player using Spinsight?
Yeah, one is what we have talked about, amount of spin, what they can reach. Especially in the spin, you see the differences.
And is the percent like huge? Like, so let's,
maybe like Dan to a pro.
Let's say, what am I to...
We have seen the development of younger players until they get professional players. We followed the compass players, for example, over some time. And for an amateur player, I would say like 100 rotations per second for the topspin. Only 50% of all the players what we have measured could reach this.
Wow, really?
Interesting.
So all of you got more than 100, so you're already better. 50%. And the kids, they start maybe like 50, 60 rotations for their topspin. And then when they grow older and improve the technique, they go up to 100. And if you're more professional, you can go up to even 140 and 150 as a male player maybe. And then if you get older again, it gets a little bit down often.
So we have to enjoy it. We're probably at the peak spin right now.
Power also, yes.
So what's really cool then with Spinsight is it kind of can put you in a position of knowing, like, okay, sometimes when you play table tennis, it's not always about the results. You're working hard in training, and sometimes you don't get the big wins, or a result to go, oh, I'm at this level. But with Spinsight data, all your shots you can work on to try and get them to be a professional level. It's a great measurement tool.
I would recommend to work on the consistency first. This you also can measure now, of course, and try to improve the quality step by step.
Yeah.
And then if you reach a certain level and a good technique, then everything is about variation.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Herman, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Really
Yeah,
cool to talking to you.
That was great. Yeah. So guys, don't forget to tune in next time for the next podcast. But yeah, again, thanks very much. Some great insight there on Spinsight.
Absolutely. And it's out now, guys. You can check it out in all the app stores, in the links in the description to check out Spinsight. And yeah, really looking forward to using this as well.
Thank you
Herman,
very much.
you're the man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Herman.
Cheers, guys.